Так, мы в эфире. Друзья, добрый день всем, кто нас смотрит. Сегодня у нас очередное интервью, но немножечко с изюминкой, потому что мы будем общаться с человеком не из России. Интервью пройдет на английском языке. Этот товарищ мой хороший друг, с кем мы вместе, с кем познакомились в Голландии, и за то время, что прошло с момента нашего знакомства, он прошел достаточно весомый путь по карьерной лестнице, и сейчас он работает в крупнейшем банке Голландии под названием ABN Amro. Это очень большая бюрократическая сложная структура, и это крупноденежная корпорация масштаба всей Европы. Поэтому, мне кажется, этот опыт будет очень интересным. И если вы смотрите это на английском языке, то в обозримом будущем после публикации этого видео мы надеемся добавить субтитры. На всякий случай для тех, кто недостаточно хорошо понимает, о чем мы сейчас будем говорить. Так, я представляю вам Бенама. Его позиция – это Lead Development Engineer, если не ошибаюсь. Я думаю, он сам вам об этом лучше расскажет. Behnam, let me wait a second. Microphone is off. Did you mute yourself? I can turn you back on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, now it's good. Hello, Behnam.
Yeah. Hello. Good to be with you.
Yeah, very much appreciated that you found time to join us today.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So, as I told you before, we are discussing two major things today. One is how to get a job abroad in general, and the second one is how to become a manager if you're a developer. So let's start with the first one. As far as I remember, just for our watchers, I'll say that Behnam is from Iran. He's Persian, and Netherlands is not the first country he moved to. From what I know, he also used to work in Malaysia for quite a while. And as far as I understand, Behnam, it was your first experience moving abroad professionally.
Okay.
So if you can just briefly describe, I'm not asking what made you do so, because I know you pretty well, but I'm just going to ask, how did you approach that? What maybe was the most important things you've learned during that? And how did you even approach that? How did you make choices?
Yes, actually, I'm from Iran. I'm Persian. I have almost 9 years experience in software industry, 4 years in Iran, and almost 5 years abroad. So, as you said, I first moved to Malaysia. And to be honest, for me, it was, I was sure that I want to move out. But going to Malaysia, it was a bit of luck as well, because I went there as a tourist for 10 days and I liked the place and I see that English is quite common there. So I said, okay, let's go there. So it was pretty fast and it happened just quickly. But the first thing that when I look back, I think that even without intention to move abroad, it was a good decision, because when you move abroad, when you are young, you are not missing anything. You just see a lot of new things, and if you don't like it, you go back. So it is the main thing that I see when you go abroad, a lot of new things, lot of new people. So in my opinion, in general, it's like a win most of the time. But when it comes to the work itself, I guess three important factors was there for me to find a job. One is English or language. It's something you need to know. But the second thing is that you need to be able to find a job technical wise. And in order to be able to find a job, either you need to be too good or the market should be quite competitive. For example, I can say that right now in Netherlands, market is super cool, and it's a good time for developer, because a lot
is it still hungry for developers or IT personnel in general?
Yeah. Really, right now for example, where I work, we are hardly looking for developer, and of course, we would like to find someone inside the country, but we can't. So last 2-3 developers we get, they came from abroad. So yes, the country needs a lot of resource, but still you need to have some skills, and I guess everyone knows that they need to be ready for the job. The third thing is that you need to learn some new way for applying for the job. For example,
Very good point. Very good point.
yes, because there are several things you need to consider. One of them is that you have most of the times you don't have a lot of connection in the country. So it's one thing you need to understand. This other thing is that when you are from abroad, then you need to convince the company that I'm good enough. So when they want to invite you, they sometimes have some concerns, like, okay, it costs for them, and cost is not just like money, but also time. So you need to understand that it's not like you go to a company and face to face you have interviews. So sometimes it's a bit, you need to be more proactive, talk more, and show them that you like the job. Also, cultural wise, they need to like you at the end because they want to work with you. And the other thing is that I think when you want to go to a country, you really need to study the country because it's really different. I mean, if someone right now, after 2 years in Malaysia and almost 3 years in Netherlands, if someone asks me, okay, I want to work with a Malaysian company or I want to work with a Dutch company, I would give them two different advice. Because Malaysian company looks for someone who is going to just work hard for them. But Dutch company, well, they have different opinion about people. They really, really want someone that it's easy for them to work with. So during the interview and hiring process, you need to convince them that, okay, I'm the guy you are looking for.
Okay, that was very good description, but would like to dig deeper into things you've mentioned. Like
Okay.
first, the language or English precisely. What would you say is a minimum level at which you can approach finding a job in an international company? Because we're assuming that if company hires from abroad, it's most likely international. So there are people coming from different origins and they have different level of language. And everybody, every nation speaks English a bit differently. You probably noticed that as well.
Yeah.
So what is a minimum level? What because there are a lot of people, at least in Russia, I know a lot of people who are afraid of even trying to get a job abroad or to get on an interview because they think that English is not good enough. So they're basically scared that they won't be accepted just for the fact of the English. And every single person I had interview with so far, everybody stated that we tend to highly overestimate what the expectations are. So what is your opinion on that? Which, for example, what level of English did you have when you first applied to a Malaysian company?
No, it was not that advanced, I would say. The thing is that I guess um English is important, but the main thing is that you can communicate. So it's not about speed, it's not about accent, but it's more about you are able to communicate. So when I talk with people, I myself in interview, I would be happy if I see that they are very fluent, very fast in English. But if they are not, to be honest, I don't see it as a problem until they can communicate. So when they are making a sentence, if they are not using the best word available, or if the sentence is not grammar with the grammar, it is not correct, it's not a problem. If their accent is not very good, it's not a problem as well, as long as they can communicate and they can talk. So in my opinion, if someone is preparing for interview, he needs to be able to answer question even slowly. And my opinion is that don't focus on accent or being fast, but just focus on learning the skills to make sentence. But don't think that it should be like you need to talk like a native person, because at the end, most of people who are working here, they are not like native speaker, including me. I've got some Indian colleague who pronounce 50 when they want to say 50, and they are here for 5 years and they are working and they don't have any problem. Or I've got some Eastern European colleague when I was working with Boeing, and not all of them can speak English very, very well. But okay, they don't have any problem with listening, and they don't have any problem to express themselves.
But would you agree that if we're talking about developers, especially like senior developers or some hardcore data scientists, whatever, they probably should have a little bit more of understanding, because they tend to use a lot of technical terms, and it's sometimes hard to find the proper term in translation when you're trying to convey some complex technological idea or some architectural, concept. Do you think it is like that? Or is it also?
For sure,
For
sure. I guess it's a very good point, because the level of English you have really, really depends on your role as well. I mean, if you are a lead person or if you are a senior person, you need to have a stronger skills. And the reason is that you go to the meeting that other type of people are not going to. I mean, as a lead, you also need to understand business people, and business people, they don't have a lot of tolerance to not being understood in the meeting. So you need to understand people, and also you need to be able to drive the conversation. It's not that easy. I mean, when I'm in Iran, of course, I can drive the conversation the way I want, so I can achieve what I want. But in English, you really need to, if you are a lead person or maybe even a senior person, for discussion, for sure, you need to have a better communication.
I agree with you. In general, I'd say that having a better level of English never hurts, because communication is key wherever you go, whatever you do.
Yeah.
But just to start, just to find your first job abroad, especially if you're going to Europe, where people of very different descents and pretty much there are no natives there at all, then probably you can lower your expectations, and you can try early. You don't need to get up to B2 or C1 English level just to begin with. But eventually you'll probably get there. And from my experience, which I shared quite a lot of times already, my English started to progress rapidly just when I started doing interviews. Because from the first time you speak with an English-speaking person on the phone, you immediately get a lot from that only. And if you just continue to work on, if you move there and you spend 2-3 weeks speaking English daily, your level will just skyrocket.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, then.
Also, there are some courses on internet about business English, and I highly recommend it. I took some of them last year when I changed my job, because I need to be better with business language, like proper language. And yes, you need to understand it. And
All right.
one more thing is culture, guys, because culture is very important. I mean, it's not only about language, but a bit about culture. For example, in Dutch culture, when you ask someone how is it going, and they say they have a lot of terms. They can say that good, excellent, not so good, not good, can be better, and they only have one expression to say that it's bad. But you shouldn't use it. You can use it for weather, but you can't use it for other people, for example. In my culture, I can easily say that something is bad. But in Dutch culture, if you say something is bad, it's too strong. So later, when you find the job and you want to also adapt with the environment around you, you also need to see how people behave when they are talking, what kind of words they use.
Yeah, because I personally had a lot of issues with that. Because when I just came into the company in the Netherlands, I was watching around and looking what people talk about in general, and I've learned that a lot of things don't mean what they actually are supposed to mean. And
Oh yeah.
It's more about the context and the connotation which you put into it rather than the actual meaning of it. So this little trick you mentioned about not saying that things are bad, because bad is really too strong. Well, I didn't actually understood that until you said it, but I agree, that's how it is. Whatever happens, I mean, I used to have a colleague which had his mother pass away a day before, and when another guy in the office just asked him how was he doing, he just said, "Hey, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine." But it was obvious that he's not actually fine. But there is certain communication protocol which is not it's not written anywhere, which you have to absorb from the surroundings and use it as well to be inside the community. All right, and moving to the next point. How many interviews did you have before you got an offer from a Malaysian company?
For Malaysian company, or when I wanted to come to Netherlands?
We can discuss both because it's interesting to compare.
Well, in Malaysia, because I was there as a tourist, the third day there, I talked with my friends who were living in Malaysia, and I told them that, hey guys, I like the country. And they told me, but why don't you apply for some job? And I was not prepared. I came here to be as a tourist, but I really, really wanted to try. So I used LinkedIn and the website over there called Job Seeker, I guess, something like that. And then I got, I guess, 2-3 offers, and I could get one of those jobs.
Like how much time did it take from the moment you applied till the moment you got an offer?
Well, basically in Malaysia, the company usually, or at least the company that I applied for, they come back to you very early. It's not the same thing in Europe. But over there for me, I could have one face-to-face interview there as well. But the thing is that time for that job, I had pretty solid experience. So it was also something like the company was in need, and I had the really, really right resume for them. So I had a face-to-face interview with them, and then they liked it. And when I went back to Iran, I was not even sure if I want to go back to Malaysia, but they contacted me several times, and then I decided to finish everything, all the commitment there, and then pack the things and go to Malaysia. So in Malaysia, it was pretty simple for me, I would say. And then of course, over the companies are a little, I mean, at least that time, companies were responding you very fast. Either they like your resume or not. It's not the same case here. But when I wanted to come here, it was pretty hard, to be honest. The reason was that the time zone difference, and also it's a long, and also a little bit maybe because of the nationality. So when they want to get someone from abroad, maybe they prefer to find someone from a country in Europe, like Eastern European country, Poland, I don't know, Ukraine, Russia, whatever. But for here, I had several interviews. I can say easily more than maybe 10, 12 interviews. And for 2-3 of them, I went up to the latest stage. And at the end, I got 2 offers. One was from a company called MediaMonk, based in Houston, and the other was from a company called Boeing. And for Boeing, they told me that, okay, but at the end, we want to see you. So they invited me to Netherlands. And after, when I came to Netherlands, I had 2 interviews in 2 days. One was, again, technical interview. And the other one was like just talking with the CTO and the HR. But it was pretty hard. What I did to find the companies, I used LinkedIn, but at the same time, I used Recruiter, like some agency. And those agency helped me a lot. And at the end, one of them found me the job. So MediaMonk was from LinkedIn. So at least I can say that I got the response from both. From LinkedIn, I got an offer at the end. MediaMonk and agency also helped me a lot to find me.
Can you recall how much time exactly did it take you to go through all this process with Boeing, for instance? Like 1-2 weeks or 1-2 months? How long it was?
No, for Boeing it was pretty long. For Boeing, I guess it was like a month or maybe even more, because the interview, it was like 3 interview. One was like an exam, fidelity test, which was mostly focused on algorithm. And after that, I had a talk, like a Skype talk. And then I had another Skype talk. And then I came here. And yeah, it was like a month. For other companies, it was, I guess, like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. It was like that.
That's still pretty fast, I'd say, because when I was looking for a job there, it took me probably 3 months until I got anything, feasible. And for some companies, the whole process, there were cases where I sent an application and I completely forget about that company that I applied to it because they never responded. So I was thinking, okay, probably I don't fit and that's it. And then they come back in like two and something months and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you. And hey, I got a job already, sorry. And that was my case. Did you move to the Netherlands right from Malaysia, or did you have a time off where you just were visiting the Netherlands for the interviews? Behnam? Oh, yeah. We have second Behnam on the call for some reason. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I just can add to your point that, as I said, the company in Netherlands, it's like that. So when they, what I said about the time it takes, it was about interviews. But when you apply for a company, it's really like what you said. For Boeing, it was the same. You apply for the company, maybe 3 weeks, a month after that, they call you and you will have the first interview. So what I said about 1 month, it was from the time I had my first interview to the last interview. But in Netherlands, you should be ready that when you apply, it's not like the next day they call you, unless they are so in need, because they really have this practice to open a window for a certain time, and in this time they would wait for everyone. And even
so they do like collect the applications and then they sort them out?
Exactly. Yeah. So they have like this. They already schedule interview for 3 weeks. So if they find someone that they like, it's very rare that they say, okay, we get the guy. We choose this guy. They would say that, but we already promised other people to talk to them. So we need to give them the chance. And they see it as a win-win situation, because they say, maybe we find someone better. And they say that it's also fair because we give everyone the chance. So even in my current company, it's like that. Sometimes I find a guy, and we had the case 2-3 months ago. I really like someone, and I said, hey guys, this one is okay, let's get him. But the line manager was like, but we already have time, and we have some more interview scheduled already. So let's wait for them and see what happens. So
right.
it's the practice in Netherlands.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much common in the rest of Europe as well. So
Yeah.
when I talk to guys who are trying to apply to Sweden, to Germany, to Austria, whatever, it's pretty much all the same there. It's like they copy the manual to how to hire people from one place.
Yeah.
And I think that actually comes from big companies, because that's what Google do, that's what Facebook do, and that's pretty much everybody looks over there and thinks that's it's feasible. I personally think that's a bit of overkill for Dutch companies, because they are, to be honest, they are not that shiny and fancy as they often pretend to be. They are much smaller than Facebook and Google and whatsoever, and they are just abusing the fact that there is a high demand for the job as well from the developer side. So a lot of people want to move there particularly, and whatever application you put on, or whatever opening you post on LinkedIn or other sites, there will be hundreds and hundreds of applicants. So you can actually choose, even if you're a small startup of 10 people. And it's a pretty common case in the Netherlands, I think. When I was taking interviews, every third company I applied to was a startup. And still, they did all this long process of cherry picking because they can afford to. But I would say that if you're looking for a job there, you shouldn't be scared of that. That's just how it is, and you should be prepared that it takes time. In Asia, I also heard that it's much faster, but also it's very it's much more vague in communication, that sometimes you just apply to an Asian company. Because recently I had a person here on the call who used to work in Thailand, and he also said that a lot of times they just never reply, don't come back, they just have a call with you, then they apparently put a mark somewhere in their files that they don't like you, and they never get back to you. No calls, no replies, no feedback. Speaking of the third thing you mentioned, which is culture, I always emphasize that it's probably the most important things to get a job in the Europe, at least, and probably in the US and Canada and other countries like that. A lot of attention is paid to how well do you fit into the company, into the collective. And given that, I want to ask you, what was, maybe you can name a few things, what were the most unexpected things when you started to take interviews in Europe, and what questions were you asked which made you feel, that you don't know what they want to hear? What lessons did you learn generally? What advice can you give to people, especially since I know you used to work a lot with people from Russia and Eastern Europe as well? So what advice would you give to people coming from those countries when they take interviews in Europe?
Yes, basically, I can say something. I got an interview from Malaysia with a Dutch company, and I think it went pretty well. Like, I answered all the questions, all technical questions. But then I got the call from the recruiter who got this interview for me, and he was a bit pissed off. Like, hey man, you should understand that you are in Malaysia. You are not here to get interviewed easily. So my expectation is that in interview, you need to show them that you like the job and you care for the company. It's very important because it's one of the things I learned. Because when they asked me, okay, what is your motivation to come to Netherlands? I said that I don't want to go back to my country, and I want to come to Europe. And then the company told the recruiter that this guy, he doesn't respect our company, or he doesn't have any reason to come to our company. He just wants to come to Europe. So it's not like he chose our company. So I guess one important thing for them is that you like what they do and you care about their company in general. It's important for Dutch company. It's not like just I want to earn some euros and I want to live in Amsterdam. It's important to have some opinion about the company and have and kind of express yourself. Back to what you mentioned, like I work with Eastern European people. I know that you guys are so practical. You don't talk about blah 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 a lot, but you should do it in the interview a little bit, because Dutch people in their culture, they explain and they express on things which is maybe too fancy for Russian culture or even for Iranian culture, like life balance or life work balance, or I don't know, things like I like to live in Amsterdam, what I know about Netherlands, this kind of things. It's very important for them to hear that you know about not only the company but also about the country, about people, this kind of things. I guess they want to hear. The other thing is, which is very...
Sorry, let me interrupt you. Given that, don't you think that maybe just... I was only thinking that this thing you mentioned is more of that they want to see that you have invested something into actually getting their job. So it's like a way to see your commitment. Or is it just a sort of, national pride?
No, I guess it's both, because it's not only they want to see that you invest some time to get the job, but also they really think that, at least some company, they really want to make sure that you are okay to work with them. And to be honest, they got some reason for it. One of the reason is that if you are not happy with your job, or if you are not so motivated to do your job, here in Netherlands, it's not easy to kick someone out. Culturally, it's not easy, because right now, if I'm not happy with someone, I really need to prepare like a 3 months plan to put him out of the field. Because it's not like you go to your manager, you prove that someone is not delivering, and the next day he's not there. It's not the case here. So here they are too careful to get someone. And nowadays I'm like them. So nowadays when I want to get someone, I really consider the fact that, am I going to work with this person happily for a long time? So this kind of things is important, because sometimes people, they just want to get the job, but they don't ask any question, or they don't know what company is doing. For example, someone who is coming to a bank to work. Okay, bank is a very regulated, slow place. So if you don't like to work in such a place, and if you didn't study about it at all, or if you are not asking question about it, or if you I can give you even another example. We got recently a guy who was from, we had an interview with a guy from Paris, and he told us that he likes to live in a big city. And my manager consideration was that, but Amsterdam is not so big.
Compared to Paris, of course.
Yeah. So what I want to say is that they really consider these things. And maybe the reason is that for my manager, with his vision to life, if you say that I like to live in big city, then you come to Amsterdam, you would be disappointed. Maybe it's not happening at all, but it's just his vision to the life. So it's his own experience that, okay, I don't like somewhere, then I move my city or my job or whatever. So I think that it really works to really study the company and also know something about the culture. The other thing is that communication is very important for them. This kind of question, to be honest, they are not so stupid. Question like, how do you deal with difficult situation? Because in some company, this kind of things really happens. For example, here. Adopting with the company policy is important. Like, for example, even if you are a manager or even if you have a high title, you still need to accept company policy. For example, if they have a policy about not installing some software on your machine, this kind of things, you should accept them. So during the interview, cultural-wise, they really want to understand that, are you a person who is going to accept this kind of things, or accept the majority, the rules, everything. So this kind of communication is important. So I think watch out what you are talking about during the interview. They don't like negative things. So if you talk about your former employer in a negative way, they wouldn't be so happy. I've seen it in the meeting we had, and after the applicant leave the room, we start to talk, and I see that everyone didn't like the fact that he was too negative about.
Yeah, this thing I can get, because I think that the common conception is that if you say some, critical, if you express some critical opinion about your former employer, that means that when you leave this company which you're applying to, you can do pretty much the same, and this can be this can make a reputational harm. to the company.
Yeah.
Because no company would like that people will just go around and say, hey, I work there, it's shit, I don't like this company. So that makes perfect sense to me. And getting back to Eastern European people, namely Russians, my question was about probably some, personal qualities, some traits of character. So which advice you could provide for people in this sense? Like what to work on, what, which things not to share bluntly just on the first interview, stuff like that.
I think that I can't generalize, but almost every Russian person I've seen so far, they are very strong technically. So I think that maybe it's the time that they check their quality when it comes to soft skills. Like they need to see how they talk with people and how they express their opinion. Because when you go to an interview, you are not going to win other people. You need to be so clear about what does winning means to you. In my opinion, you can reject the job, but you should get the job first and then reject it. But the definition of done for your interview is that you get the job. If you want to get the job, it doesn't mean that you need to win everyone. So one thing I've seen in some Russian is that, at least my colleagues in Boeing, is that they are, of course, intelligent people, but sometimes they forget the fact that it's not about proving your idea. It's more about explaining that you know things about the discussion. But what I've seen from some of my Russian colleagues is that sometimes they make their
Push too much, right?
Exactly, they push their opinion and they want to convince other people, and they give this signal that I'm a stubborn person who says my words, and I'm saying that okay, you are just too stupid. So it's something that you shouldn't forget. Maybe the other thing is that we should also understand that cultural things, as we already discussed, is a bit different. So Dutch people are quite open, and they are quite straightforward. They are quite direct people, but not as direct as.
Yeah, I think being straightforward doesn't mean being rude.
Yeah, so you should also a little bit watch out the way that you choose your words, because I'm also pretty much practical. So sometimes I think that you can use a very slang word which can really deliver what you mean, but you need to be diplomatic in Dutch environment, because as I said, some words here, they have different meaning for them, or at least they pretend they don't want to hear. So it's also important. It's very important. And when it comes to the teamwork, I guess I haven't seen any single person in management level in Netherlands who doesn't believe that teamwork is more important than person. So here, I guess you really, and in my opinion, to be honest, don't fake it. Try to think about it. Because if you fake it, at the end, people can feel it. Or even it doesn't, I guess it doesn't hurt if you really try to think about it, that as a team you can work, so you need to understand other people. It's not about here, at least in Netherlands, it's not about you are strong, so you have privileges over other people. Of course, when you are like a tech lead, you have some privileges like salary, some rights over other people. But in Netherlands, at the end, you should understand that it's a very flat, not only a flat country, but also they have a flat working culture. So you should also show that in interview, especially if you apply for a lead developer or something, that you can manage people and you can understand people who are who have less experience than you. Mentoring to them is very important. even not only for lead developer, but also for senior developer. It's a part of your job.
Okay, since you mentioned that, let's move on to the next point of our interview, where I would like to discuss the concept of moving up in the management chain. I used to know a lot of developers who are pretty happy with just developing. They just like to write code, especially if they have a chance to use some new technologies, or if they know that they influence a lot of people and the products they're building are widely used all around, then they're happy with that. But there are also a certain amount of people which are, they just probably have different ambitions. They would like to organize some high-level teams and solve some bigger problems. And also, I always recite that if you're not happy with your management as a developer, that's a sign that you can probably do better. And if you know what you can do better, you can just try yourself at this. But there are also a lot of small things in perception which differentiate from a good developer to a good manager, right? So there are certain values which change when you move up from a developer position to a even team lead position, or let alone project manager or product owner or something like that, which is even more business oriented. So from what I know, there are certain things about you which probably make you much better at it than most of the people I know, especially that you are good at bargaining or at negotiating. I think that's one of the skills which are, they help a lot when you're working with business and when you're solving some high order tasks. Maybe you can elaborate something more on that and just express your opinion on what helps you personally to excel at what you're doing right now, since you're in a lead position right now, and also maybe just give some another advice to people who want to, who are, have a good technical skills or maybe some soft skills as well, but they work as a developer and they want to move up, and for some reason they're rejected or they don't even try, and because they don't know what's going to be expected from them. If you can shed some light on that, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Actually, I think that you define it in a good way. You need to have some specific characteristics to be a good lead, and then I think that before everything, you should know that being a lead in different company has different meaning. So in some company, being a lead is only technical lead, but also in some company, being a lead is not only technical lead, but also some people management. But I guess in both, you really need to be different from a senior developer. And in my opinion, the main difference is that you need to be a mature person. So being a tech lead, of course, it's about understanding the technology very well, but I guess it's the second thing. The first thing is always being more mature and more professional.
What do you mean by that? Because it's a very wide term, I think.
When I say you should be mature, I think that you should you should know the environment very well. You should know the team very well. You should know business very well as well. And when I say you should be mature, I mean you should understand that your role as a lead is different with your role as a developer. As a developer, you have a specific task and you want to do it in the best way. And the best way to you is technical way. But when you are a lead, you have your position is different. So you need to have a wider look. So when you are making some decision, you shouldn't just think about today, but you should think about 2 weeks from now. So when it comes to assigning something to someone or making some decision, you need to understand about long-term benefit for the team. At the same time, the people that you are dealing with, it dramatically change. Because when you are a developer, the people that you are dealing with are the same people, like they are only developer. But here, not
You
only
mean on the same level or on the same quality of person?
it's the same context. So everyone has the same level, more or less, and they are in the same context. But when you are a lead, you are working with different teams. You are working with different people. So you have your upper manager, you have your peers who have different teams, and you have your people under you. And all of them are important. If your teammates are not delivering well enough, then you are not a good lead. But at the same time, you need to get along with your peers who have other teams. And then you need to also get along with your upper management. And also you need to have a good relationship with business people. It's at least the way I see it, the way I experience it. But it's so it needs a lot of new skill, like delegation. You need to be able to delegate a lot. And when you want to delegate, most of the times we technical people, we have this mindset of like I can do it better. So
Yeah,
let me do it.
either I do it good or I don't do it at all.
Exactly. It's not going to work. I mean, there are certain things that I can do it better than my peers, better than my teammates, but I should let them do because my focus should be on other type of things. So you need to really have like a strategic mindset to focus on important things. It's a cliche, it's a routine things, but trust me, it's very hard. Because when you want, for me, it was hard. Because when you want to do some technical things, you want to do it at the same time. You have other things to deal with. So sometimes you can't have a balance with this kind of things. Communication is very important, very important, because when you are like a lead, then a lot of expectation comes to you, and you can't accept with everyone, but you can't also, the way you reject people or the way you accept people, it's important. It's very important. You need to make sure that your team is secure. Also, when you are a developer, you don't have any consideration like that because someone else is going to do it. But when you are a lead, you need to also think about how people feel and this kind of thing. So that one is also very important. I guess you need to be a little bit political with other teams, how to deal with them, and you really sometimes you need to shout loud to show your team and say that, hey guys, we are here as well. And even in places like Netherlands, even in regulated places, there are a lot of politics. So be prepared. If you think that being a lead is all about cool technical things, think twice. It's not like that. It's like my current place. I guess I already told you. It's like really, it's like Game of Thrones. Everyone has some hidden agenda, and it's not so easy.
That's banking, right? That's what banking is about.
Yes, but it's not only banking. I mean, even in places like Boeing, let's say that new responsibility comes, and you see that other teams are taking some responsibility that you like to take it into your team. So communication in that sense, I guess, is very important because when you are dealing with powerful people, at the end, personal relationship is very important. So
Very good point. I'd like to
yeah,
emphasize.
yeah. And then one more thing for technical people maybe is that when you are a lead, you really shouldn't focus on your own resume. Like when you come to select some technology or some cool stuff, it's important to consider company benefit and business benefit. And not every developer, like your people, your teammates, they wouldn't like it, but you need to make some hard decision as well.
Yeah, that's something I have encountered quite often. That's
Yeah.
because a lot of developers, they actually would like to grow, and that's perfectly valid, ambition. just to use whatever new things are coming out and improve yourself as a developer, so you can have better resume, you can have more skills, you can have broader vision of the technology and IT, infrastructure as well. But when it comes to solving business problems, the perspective changes vastly, and other things matter, like how stable it is, how much used it is the community big, can you solve the problems quick and easy, and how easy it is.
Aligned with the other teams' practice.
Yes, how does it fit into the business schedules which already exist in the place, and how easy it is to find people as well. For instance, if you would like to start some new website or web application, and if you go for React or Angular or Vue, it's okay, yeah, but because there are a lot of people who are working on that, and it's easy, relatively easy, of course, to find people to compel the team.
Yeah.
But if you would like to throw in some completely new stuff, like, I don't know, Inferno JS or Svelte, I've heard of that, then it's probably not the best choice, even though it's fashionable, it's trendy, and it might be even better in more of technical aspects compared to previous iterations. But it's new, it's raw, it can help a lot of undercover problems,
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, okay, that was some weird scratching sound coming from you. Anyhow, so Behnam, how to be good at politics then? How do you approach people?
And I think one thing is that you should understand, you should know what you don't know. I really think that some courses, as you said, would help, and learning from other people, because like computer, that we can get some skills by reading, watching. It would be the same about soft skills. I guess when it comes to having to be good with politics and find your way, uh, you need to put some time for it, because I've seen quite often that people come to meeting or people talk without having any vision, and it seems that they didn't invest any time for it. So it's important to put some time for it. It's important to be kind of clear head, know what you want. But at the same time, it's important to understand that it's not a um, it's not a uh, zero-sum game. So it's not like either I win or I lose. It should be balanced. If you are not doing it this way, then your period as a person who is achieving things would be pretty short, because a great deal for one side is a disaster for the other side. So it works if you are selling something and then you say baba. But if you want to have a long relationship with management team, with other managers, with your teammate, it's not going to work. So you need to really, really think for a long term. Otherwise, you will get wiped, at least in big places. Um, so, in my opinion, at the end, it's not very, very hard thing. It's important that you just have like basic soft skills. Second thing is that you have good language skills, and then you have some vision, strategy, and some types of like creativity. Uh, I guess that's it.
Sounds way easier than it's done, I believe. But in general, I agree, of course. So speaking of team leading as it is, how do you approach working with your how do you call that, reportees, people who are under you in your team? Do you have any routines which you apply often, or do you have any special tricks? Because I believe that when you're leading a team, you have to consider a lot of their personal ambitions and desires as well, to make everyone happy, so they don't leave, so they work productively, so they work, coherent, so they do all the same thing, and they do not counteract each other. So do you have any advice on that?
But I guess the best thing you can do is like a regular meeting, and you need to have like different. You need value people in a different way. So
do you mean one-on-one meetings, or do you gather all your team at once?
No. One-to-one meeting, like face-to-face meeting. It's very important to also have like a vision or a strategy for different people, because at the end some people are more specific or more special to you. You see them as a big help, and they are more important for you. So you need to have like regular meeting with them, even more often. Uh, so I guess it's very important to be updated with both sides. I personally have a rule for myself, and the rule is like, if something surprised me, it means that something's wrong, because I need to be updated. So if I went to a meeting with my manager or with one of the people I'm working with on daily basis, and then I hear something which makes me so surprised, I would say that something's wrong with my style, or something's wrong with the procedure, because you should be updated all the time. So it's important to have like open ear, and listen to people. uh, it's important to understand that here in Western world, and in at least some good company, a good lead is a lead that have successful team, and teammates are happy. It's not a fancy word, but it's a real thing. So if you want to have that, you should uh, listen more, understand them, and get all the updates. Also try to help them, but at the same time, being decisive, being like, you need to say no, and you need to reject people sometimes. And I think, in my opinion, at the end, you should have like the character. So I understand everything about flat environment, but I think that at the end you should have everything under control, not like micromanagement, but it shouldn't be like a chaos. Like everything happens
Yeah,
without
you
your.
should have all the info, right? You should have the understanding of what's going
Yes.
on.
Yes. Not only what's going on, but also you can control it. So when I say you need to delegate things to people, it's also like it's a bit tricky. Delegating to people is about also getting a report, and you need to have exit strategy for this kind of delegation as well. Because time to time I guess I already told you about my current job. When I went to the team, I was like, oh god, what's happening here? Because it was really like delegating. There was a Microsoft team, a big team, like 14 people, 13 people, and it was in a department. All other teams are SAP or Java team. So this team kind of left out from all other teams, and they delegate, they do self-management, and management team is totally unaware of what they are doing. So I think that something's wrong with this style. So a manager at least need to get report from the delegation he's doing.
It makes all the sense in the world, I'd say. Right, Behnam. So let's wrap it up with some, short, rapid questions. Like, can you probably name up to 3 books which you would suggest any person who'd like to go into management to read?
I
Because I
guess
know you read a lot, and you like watch a lot of educational content. So if you can, share something, it would be great.
Oh yeah, sure. I guess I really like a very old book by Dale Carnegie, if I'm correct pronouncing his name.
Dale Carnegie, yeah.
Yeah. So the book name is, if I'm not mistaken, How to Win the Relationship with Friends, or something like that. It's a pretty old book, but I really
It's
like it.
pretty famous in Russia as well.
Yes. The second book, I guess you already read it, the one with Mark Manson.
Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a very good book. I also would suggest it to anyone.
Yes, I guess that's also a very interesting book. And the third one is, in my opinion, there is a book by Stephen Covey, I guess. The name is 7 Habits of Effective People. That one is very famous as well.
Yeah, I've heard about it as well.
Yeah, what I like about that is that it's very practical. Like some of the things I already said, like being clear-headed, this kind of things. Over there, you can see it very well. And I think these 3 books helps a lot. And at least for me, they really, they changed me kind of.
That sounds impressive. So, do you believe that management skills in general correlate to the self-management skills in a way? That.
For sure.
So, from my experience, I think that before you can organize anything, you should be able to organize yourself in the first place.
I guess it's already quite proven that when you are a good manager, you are managing yourself very well. Because by science, you can't manage more than 5 things or 5 people, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Anyhow, the number is very, very small. So at the end, what people do, like the highest level, just see like, I don't know, giant company CEO, Facebook CEO, Microsoft CEO. At the end, they have like responsibility, very limited responsibility, which impacts a lot of the things. But everything is about self-management. I do agree, and especially even when you are like a senior developer, if you are a good senior developer or a bad one, you need to manage yourself, because one of the things you need to understand is that you don't have the power to manage others. I mean, you can really try to manage others, but it's so complicated. I mean, their parents couldn't manage them. Their wife and husband couldn't manage them. So why you suddenly decided to manage other people? It's too pointless.
That's a very good observation.
Yeah.
All right, Behnam. Thank you very much for joining us today. You really have a very interesting perspective on that, and your experience also is quite unique, I'd say, in my terms, and I think a lot of people can get some interesting insights from what you described today. Thank you very much, and hope to see you again soon. Maybe we'll talk another time. Maybe there are some chances. I know maybe there are some chances you come to Russia finally.
Yeah,
so
I hope.
Then we could record something, live with a camera or something. And I'd like to see you again. Maybe I'll come to the Netherlands. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
And see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys. Вот так, собственно, пообщались с Бенамом. Спасибо большое всем, кто нас смотрел. Я надеюсь, что перевод этого видео в виде субтитров появится в скором будущем. И если у вас есть какие-то вопросы, обязательно оставляйте их в комментариях. Мы передадим их Бенаму, и я уверен, что он нам ответит. Подписывайтесь на наш телеграм-бот. Ссылочка в описании, вы понимаете. Приходите, общайтесь и задавайте свои вопросы. Будем всем рады. Всем пока, до скорых встреч.